Hi, I'm Jill. I have three lovely children, the oldest of whom is Cameron, who's now 17, our young man. There were no after-school care facilities that could accommodate my son. My son is autistic, towards the severe end of the spectrum. Cameron would come home from school and he could be a little bit hyped up because he had tried to keep it together all day during school, and I think our kids are superheroes for what they have to go through each day coping with our mainstream world. So he would come home from school and could be a bit fired up, and really it would just be a case of trying to keep him calm. Life before Rainbow was very restricted for all of us, and possibly without us even realising or acknowledging it, because it is what we had grown with and evolved with. For example, there was no nipping to the supermarket once Cameron was home. A supermarket is a place where it's just a sensory overload for him. I mean, that may sound fairly minimal, but it does get as basic as that sometimes, that you cannot do normal everyday activities. We didn't have we weren't able to give our children the opportunity to do after-school activities, to have friends over, to do normal after-school life that their friends did without thinking. I also now realise that life before Rainbow for Cameron, I believe he may have been quite bored and lacking stimulation. When he first went to Rainbow, I had absolute faith in the staff. I had met the staff, I trusted them, I was pleased with the environment where Rainbow was the location. But I was really surprised over time how Cameron's socialisation improved, how his tolerance of others and their noise levels improved and increased. That was something I hadn't expected. So many activities were available to the children, but there was no pressure for them to do any particular activity at any particular time. I expected Cameron at Rainbow mainly to be watching a DVD, because that is an activity that calms him, it's visual, if it's a DVD he knows well, it's predictable, all that helps to keep him calm. I would come to Rainbow to pick him up and I would see him playing with Play-Doh, and I would see him playing a board game. Now, he was still doing these activities in his autistic way. He wasn't following rules that came with the board game, or you should play with Play-Doh like this. That didn't matter. He was increasing his activities. He was stretching what he would tolerate. That's a huge achievement for a young man with autism, because their world is all to do with sensory issues. And Cameron, who can be the biggest noisemaker, is not tolerant of others making noise. So I saw Cameron blossom. Yes, I just saw so many benefits from Rainbow, benefits in ways that I just hadn't anticipated. And by the end, or certainly within a year or two, he was going to Rainbow every afternoon, because it just fulfilled a huge need in him, which I didn't realise was there. It became obvious that the carers, the staff who worked at Rainbow, were more like buddies, and they were positive role models to Cameron as he was going through his teenage years, and he simply would not have had that experience anywhere else. You couldn't have just anybody working at Rainbow. There had to be people who acknowledged and understood our kids and accepted them for who they were, and that was the thing about Rainbow. Our kids, Cameron was accepted for who he is, and I couldn't ask for more than that. When Cameron first went to Rainbow, I knew he was safe, I knew he was well looked after, and I think that was all I could really aim for. But of course, Rainbow was also imperative as far as my employment was concerned. It just gave me more flexibility. I think it's important for any family. You usually need two incomes coming in, and we're certainly no different from anybody else. And it was a huge reassurance that I was able to provide my employer with what my employer wanted of me. We have been greatly affected. For the first time ever, I'm unemployed. I lost my job recently. Just redundancy, one of those things, and I'm unable to find another job which will fit around Cameron's hours. I felt so much grief when Rainbow closed. I knew what a difference it would make to Cameron. I knew how his life would become narrow and restricted again, through no fault of his own. I avoided driving past Rainbow, but one day, many weeks later, I forgot and just drove up the road. And Cameron sat up straight in his seat as we approached Rainbow and looked at me and said, "Rainbow." And then he sat back and he said, "Rainbow closed." And as we drove past the entrance to the Rainbow car park, he turned round and craned his neck till Rainbow was out of sight. And that just grieved me hugely. My son was missing Rainbow that much. And my son, who doesn't have many words to convey his feelings, it's usually his behaviour, those two words, Rainbow closed, just summed it all up. The loss of Rainbow meant he had nowhere to hang out with his peers on a regular and consistent basis. That was the big thing. Life for Cameron again has become much narrower, much more restrictive, and very different from any other 17-year-old. He wasn't able to build up the relationships, to maintain the relationships that had been made during Rainbow. And that is a loss that is hard to measure in any quantifiable terms. But I know from my boy that he was very, very sad. Rainbow provided us as a family the same opportunities that other families have, that other families take for granted, that other families don't even think about. And that's what we want. We just want the same opportunities as others. We do not want more. We are not asking for more. We want the same.